I didn't shout when I discovered the truth. I planned, and that changed everything.
Life had always felt predictable in the best possible way. It was built on those comfortable routines, the inside jokes that only we understood, and plans that stretched so far into the future they felt like a certainty. I truly believe that when you know someone for years, you know who they really are. I never even thought to question that assumption. The early days of our relationship were just effortless. I remember all those late nights spent talking about our wildest dreams, and the quiet mornings that followed, feeling so completely safe. Trust wasn't something we rushed. It grew slowly, naturally, reinforced by a quiet consistency rather than grand, flashy gestures. When we got engaged, it felt more like a promise we had already fulfilled, not some big risk we were taking. I was convinced that once you earned stability, it was permanent. Planning our future became our shared hobby. We'd spend hours designing our imaginary home, debating paint colors, and mapping out holidays to places we'd never been. Every decision felt mutual, perfectly balanced, and fair. So, when the idea of a solo trip came up, it sounded harmless at first. It was framed as this grand adventure, a journey of self-discovery. Looking back, I completely ignored the subtle, almost desperate urgency behind all the excitement. Soon enough, preparation for the trip took over our entire apartment. Suitcases and packing lists replaced our familiar, shared routines. I mistook the growing distance between us for simple anticipation. The morning of the departure arrived way too quickly, wrapped in a silence that felt so much heavier than just pre-flight nerves. There was something lingering in the air, a word unspoken, but I chose to trust the years we had behind us more than my own gut instinct. At the airport, surrounded by the chaos of hurried travelers, the words finally came. They were spoken so casually, so nonchalantly, as if they carried no weight at all. And in that moment, time just froze. My entire reality fractured right there, in front of hundreds of strangers rushing past. There was no argument, no real explanation. There was just a turn, a movement away from me, and then a disappearance into the crowd. The shock anchored me to the spot on that cold airport floor long after the space beside me was empty. I tried to reach out, calling, texting, but every attempt was met with a silence that felt deliberate, not accidental. The realization that I had been completely erased from a life I helped build settled in slowly and so painfully. Days blurred into a single, monotonous stretch of time, while unanswered questions echoed in every quiet moment. The apartment, once our sanctuary, felt haunted by plans that no longer had any meaning. When friends would ask what happened, I had no answers to give them. I was learning, in the harshest way possible, how quickly uncertainty can isolate you. But the sleepless nights eventually started to bring clarity instead of just despair. That oppressive silence stopped feeling temporary and began to feel final. The truth wasn't found in any message or explanation. It formed in the complete and total absence of one. This wasn't a pause. This was abandonment. Acceptance didn't arrive as a sudden emotional revelation. It came through action. I knew I had to make decisions before false hope could distort my judgment. One by one, I started making the calls, the venue, the caterer, all the plans we had made. I undid them. I dissolved every single commitment. And with each cancellation, I felt like I was reclaiming a piece of my own control, not losing something precious. Work became my refuge. The structure it provided replaced the chaos in my mind. Focus became a tool for survival. And support, when it came, arrived quietly from friends and family, steady and reliable. No one tried to fix what they knew couldn't be repaired. They just sat with me in the wreckage. Time passed unevenly, marked by sharp, sudden waves of anger, followed by strange moments of relief. The distance was giving me the clarity that being up close had denied me for so long. When contact was finally made again, it didn't come with remorse or an apology. It came with expectation. The assumption that everything could just resume, that I would just be waiting, felt like the deepest insult of all. That's when pleading was replaced with boundaries. My silence became just as intentional as theirs had been. Eventually, the truth I had been dealing with privately started to surface publicly. Stories that had been rewritten were now corrected without any need for drama or embellishment. The reactions from others were swift. Their shock quickly gave way to understanding. The narrative was finally shifting beyond anyone's control. Attempts at justification started to trickle in, but they were far too late to matter. Trust doesn't survive a disappearing act. Then came the pressure from all sides, people urging me to choose forgiveness over self-respect. But I chose clarity over their idea of comfort. The persistence for a second chance started to feel unsettling, crossing the line from apology into a strange sense of entitlement. My boundaries hardened into walls. The final contact was met with a calm certainty, not emotion. I had learned that closure doesn't require agreement from the other person. My life began to reorganize itself around this new reality, not the old expectations. The loss revealed everything I had taken for granted, especially my own strength. Healing arrived unevenly. It wasn't a feeling of relief, but a quiet, growing strength. My confidence rebuilt itself, brick by brick, in private. Old habits began to fade, replaced by a new sense of intention. My daily routine started to have meaning again, a meaning I created for myself. The future, which had felt so broken, now felt open. The illusion of a shared life was replaced by the freedom of my own. Occasionally, memories still surface, but they don't have the power to hurt me anymore. Nostalgia has softened into a kind of detached understanding. New goals began to form, goals that were entirely my own, unshared but deeply fulfilling. That autonomy felt earned. I found that real growth emerges from reflection, not just reaction. The lessons I learned settled deep within me. Trust returned, but this time it was directed inward first, before I even considered extending it outward again. Self-respect became the anchor for every decision I made. What once felt like complete and utter devastation now feels like it was a form of protection. Walking away, choosing not to go back, became an act of self-preservation. That distance revealed just how fragile false security truly is. And the truth, as heavy as it was, proved to be so much lighter than carrying false hope. The person I became in the aftermath is so much stronger than the one I was before. That profound loss transformed into profound clarity. Time simply confirmed what my instinct had tried to tell me all along. Leaving that situation behind saved more than it ever cost. This story didn't end with reconciliation or regret. It ended in self-ownership. Some betrayals break your heart. Others break your illusions. This one did both. And in that breaking, I found a freedom that no promise could ever guarantee. I found a future built on my own honesty, not someone else's assumptions. And I learned the most important lesson of all, that choosing yourself isn't abandonment. It's survival. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing for more.